So this is episode 10? 10 already,
10.
yeah. Episode
Wow.
10.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get to be on one of the mile markers.
Yeah, that's a
Yes,
mile
you
marker for
are.
sure. Yeah.
like it.
So yeah, last episode we had some
Scott.
hiccups on the audio aspect.
Ooh.
So
Test.
so if anything, there might be a little bit of echoing, and hopefully I don't sound like a chipmunk this time.
Oh.
I've
we got
tested
some chipmunking.
Yeah, we had
Okay.
some chipmunking. My voice
Okay.
was pretty high, and clearly it's not high in person. So I thought that was hilarious. I was mad like when it happened. So I got to
Could
give
go
a
viral though.
we'll see. So I got to give
That's a positive.
I got to give a huge shout out to Mr. Duffy Murphy. He works for the Central Valley Podcast. He helped out a lot with the echoing aspect of it. So, a huge shout out to him. I do appreciate it. Yeah, and hopefully I don't have to send this one to you as well. So. But I know I have a contact if I need
If
to.
you ever do.
But yeah, so for those of you that know, I'm AJ Vasquez with the YPN.
Patty Vazquez with YPN.
And today our guest is...
Robert Dylina.
With
E-Mortgage Capital, BuildCo, contractors, and land development.
and land development.
Yeah.
Yep.
We do it all.
Doing it all, making my way up the food chain.
Yeah, I was gonna
covering
say
all the bases.
Yeah, you have your hands in a lot of pots. Like, let's just go. Let's
Let's
just
just go right to it.
yeah. Let's just get right into it because I know you have out of a lot of people that I know, you have your hands in a lot of cookie jars. In a good way. I stole the cookie from the cookie
In a
jar,
good
but
way.
In a good way. So you have your hands in a lot of cookie jars.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the first step for you? What was the first part of your journey to getting into the industry?
Into real estate, that actually started a long time ago. So my original field, career, discipline, whatever you want to call it, and even my first degree was computer engineering. I actually didn't complete that degree. I transferred into a real estate related field, construction management, when I was 2/3 of the way through already with my computer engineering degree. And I was just burned out at the time. And, construction, I got a side gig working in construction on the weekends from another buddy that I was going to college with. And, it was really a nice reprieve from being behind a computer all the time, right? So we were outdoors, literally swinging hammers, doing carpentry, working on school projects and stuff. And so I thought that was really, really cool. It's refreshing to
Hands-on,
be
yeah.
outdoors, hands-on, very tactile, And so I transferred to a construction management technologies program and graduated from that program and came back here. This was all in San Luis Obispo, by the way. I was going to Cal Poly in Cuesta. And started working for actually Greg Hostetler.
Oh,
With
okay.
Ranchwood Homes is what it was called at the time. And that was how I first got into real estate in general, right? It was on the construction side and the land development side. I started out as an assistant superintendent with him, made my way to superintendent, supervised the construction of about 400 some homes over a very, very short period. It was like 4 years. This was like 2001 to 2005, 6. Our last, for anybody that went through it, there was the recession that was officially called in 2008, but in housing it started in 2007.
Right.
Our last release and last house sold was July 2007. That's when we knew that things were going down. The foreclosures had already started. They were mounting in a big way nationwide. And so, yeah, I worked there all through that time. Once we closed up all the subdivisions, I moved on to, we were redoing all of our purchasing contracts. So I worked in purchasing for a while, helping rebuild the contracts for all the subcontractors. Because ultimately, obviously, Greg thought it was going to be a blip, but obviously it wasn't, not for the Central Valley. Some areas recovered really fast, like Bay Area bounced back in a year and a half and they were building again. Here, not so much. So once it became obvious that it wasn't going to bounce back, we didn't need all those purchase contracts, so I moved over into customer service because we still had all the houses to provide warranties on and whatnot. So I became customer service guy, sort of a all hands on deck person. I was actually out doing repairs myself, then became the customer service manager overseeing that whole department, which we eventually when you get to the end of the warranty period, there's not much work left to do. So helped outsource my own department to a firm that's all they did.
Taking college serious as an adult.
As an adult, yeah.
How hard was that?
I mean, it's not hard, really, when you just sit down and actually try. It's not that bad. When you study the material and do stuff like that. And I always did well in school. I don't know why.
When you applied it?
Yeah. But as an adult, definitely took Stanislaus a lot more serious. So at Stanislaus, I went back to do a business admin degree with a concentration in finance.
Got it.
And I mean, my logic there originally was, everybody needs somebody in finance, right? There's no matter what's going on in the economy, every company is moving money around, so somebody's got to be the bean counter. And I actually had a job sort of lined up to go work with Gallo Winery. In their finance department. And I got recruited into this industry by Dennis Nightingale.
Oh, okay.
He had saw that I had posted online. I'd won a Finance Student of the Year award.
Sweet.
And he hit me up and was just like, "Hey, let me show you what we do and how rewarding it can be." And so that was literally how I got roped into
the lending side.
The lending side, yeah.
You liked it.
I did, yeah. I saw the opportunity for, building a career and building, I guess I'll say wealth out of it, because the sky was the limit, right? It's not your typical 9 to 5. You clock in, you clock out, you get paid for your hours. You can get much more out of it if you're willing to put the extra work in. And that was what appealed to me. I think I've always sort of had an entrepreneurial spirit, so I've always wanted to sort of be self-employed, and this is quasi like that, right? You kind of have to run your ship like you're self-employed. You have to put in the hours and put in the work, and
you put you receive what you put in.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah, and that was what I think appealed to me the most, is that
the potential and the freedom
of it. And I mean, the freedom of it.
We put
a lot of hours in, working in real estate.
We say there's a lot of freedoms with it, but in reality, it's like, dude, how many times have you gotten a phone call at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
So a lot of people think, you just take an application and that's it. No, there's take an application, you're making sure that they're getting your documents, and it's like, hey, if they don't get approved, you're not going to get paid for that loan. So a lot of people think it's just like, oh, well, you make so much money, but there's a lot of work that is done to that. It's not. When I got into this, I thought it was going to be super easy and everything like that. I honestly thought it was going to be easy. I was like, taking the application part, doing all that—that's the easy work. Getting people to send you something as simple as a bank statement. I can't tell you how many times I've asked for a bank statement. I was like, dude, I need a bank statement. Oh, well, why do you need that? Well, because we need to make sure that the money is seasoned. There's so many different things about that. The amount of emails, the phone calls, even the bad phone calls. I've had to make a few bad phone calls this week, and it's just been
so stressful. It could be like that sometimes.
And I don't think a lot of people, you have to have, in this industry, really thick skin and really overcome a lot of obstacles, because in any given moment, something could hit the fan.
And that's so underappreciated by the public, with both realtors and lenders.
Correct.
So I'm a very data-oriented person, right? It kind of comes with my tech background. And since I got into this industry, I've tracked every single lead, every single client, every single closed loan. I have all the information on all of them. And my long-running average, and this holds true, 1 out of, it's 12.7, but let's just call it 13. One out of 13 leads actually turns into a closed loan.
Right.
So I'm doing a bunch of work on 12 that I'll never get paid on. Right. And so people look at, the one loan that does make it through. You might spend 20 to 40 hours accumulatively across several months getting them pre-approved, answering questions, running scenarios when they find a property and all this stuff. But you put anywhere from 2 to 10 hours on each of the other 12 too. So just to get that one large paycheck or decent sized paycheck, you put in a lot more hours than just the one loan that happened to pay out. And that's super underappreciated. Realtors are the exact same way, right? They may go show a bunch of houses, do all this stuff, spend fuel, even on the listing side, buy signage, run ads, do all this stuff, and it may not even turn into a paycheck.
Right.
In fact, the vast majority of times, it doesn't turn into a paycheck, for lenders anyways.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what that data would be for realtors.
Probably 1 out of 10 listings that I've had won't sell or won't close, but I still spend time and money on that client and that property, sometimes even on repairs, right, to get the house to look pretty enough for pictures. And you don't get that back.
And that's a very, very underappreciated aspect of it that nobody takes into account.
Yeah. So it's like they're always like, "Oh man, you guys are charging 3%." I was like, "Well, there's a reason why we're charging 3%."
Charging what I'm worth, maybe less, sometimes.
And I'm talking about not lenders, but realtors. They charge like 3%. But there's a reason why they're charging this. It's not because like, oh, I'm seeing dollar signs off this one. It's like, well, how much effort is this one going to take to get it? And a lot of time it does take at least. What would you say the minimum? Because I don't know what the minimum is. Like, what would you say you spend minimum on one listing?
My son just asked me that last night. I told him it takes me from 1 to 3 months from when I say, "Hi, my name is Patty," to when I hand keys either from the seller to the buyer, to whichever. So it takes about 3 months, and from there, like about 10, 15 hours a week. That's
just on that one listing, right?
And just on that one client. Majority of that time, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday time that I should be with the family, and I'm not. But I still love what I do. I get to meet people like you guys, and we do YPN and we do community stuff. So it makes up, to me at least, it makes up for the money that I don't take home, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally.
I don't know.
It makes sense to me. Yeah, that's the time aspect of it. I'm talking dollar sign, like dollars,
amount.
Dollar amount.
Photography is anywhere from $150 to $350 if you want to.
Depending on the size of the house.
The size of the house. Gift baskets, and like talking to the client, let's go get coffee or whatever it might be. Put another $500. That's just like cash, right? Maybe another $150 to $250 on like postcards and marketing. Look, just listed,
right?
New on the market. It's about $1,000. About $1,000.
Yeah, and I get those postcards too. Like I had one like, "Hey, there's a house that's for sale. Like, come check it out. If you want, if you're buying, or if you're like." So there's a lot of aspects on the realtor side. Lenders do that as well. Like, because we're coming up to the refi. We're hoping the refi boom's coming. So now we're prepping for that. We're looking for, hey, who has an interest rate that they had just bought or refinanced within the last like couple years at like a 7 or 8%, or maybe they have a loan with a HELOC on it that we can tie both of them in and make their payment a lot cheaper. So it's like we have that aspect that's coming out. We spend our own money for that, and I'm not. I
spend thousands of dollars a month on mailers. Just like that.
And
it's very easy. It adds up very quickly.
Yeah, and I just looked up how much stamps are, and it's
I
was like 73 cents a stamp. I'm like, so 100 stamps, that's $73 right there just in stamps.
They just went up. I buy 100 rolls every 2 weeks at Costco.
Did you get that? I was just going to say, did you get that at Costco? Yeah, they have a little bit of a discount. I mean, it's still
not much, but it's a bit.
Hey, you know what? When you're talking about
mailing every month, it makes a difference. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you were part of YPN a while back.
The old crew, the old school. I joined the year after it was established, actually.
Which
was by Ernie Ochoa, so that would have been 2011, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think he established it in 2011, the local chapter, and I joined in late 2012.
Oh, okay.
How was it back then? How big was the crew back then?
The crew was real small. It was Ernie, and gosh, I can't even remember because hardly anyone ever showed up for the meeting. So half the time it felt like it was just me and Ernie staring at each other.
That's a good one.
But yeah, it was a very, very small group. Engagement was an issue, and so even if somebody said, "Yeah, I'd love to be a part of it," they may not always show up to the meetings or show up to any meetings. the events, the first barbecue events, Ernie basically put on almost by himself. He had some help.
The first
but
cook-off.
yeah, and that's a difficult event to run solo. Like you need volunteers, you need a crew of people to pull that event off properly. And yeah, that was one of our earliest struggles, was engagement, getting people involved and committed and doing that kind of thing. But no, it was real small, bootstrapped early on. We didn't have much funding set aside. We pulled down, I think, a little bit. You'd have to ask Ernie exactly on the numbers, but we pulled down a little bit of money from CAR to help get going and doing all that stuff. And then Larissa Sherman got involved right around the same time that I did. And yeah, it was just small back in those days. Very small core group of people that actually showed up and did the work.
Mm-hmm. Was that before or after you were planning commissioner?
So I was on planning for 8 years. And let's see, I came off the planning commission, that would have been 2022, late 2022.
Really?
So yeah, it was right about that time was when I went on the planning commission. That actually, a lot of this ties back into Stanislaus. When I graduated from there, I sort of, I guess, reevaluated my life just to see where I was at, what I'm doing. And I set several priorities for myself at that point. I literally, again, being data-driven individual, I sat down and was like, okay, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want to do? What are break it into categories. And I had personal goals, professional goals, and a new component that I had never had before, which was community and volunteering engagement. And I knew that I wanted to get involved in the community like some of the people that I really respected, that were very successful and gave back, and I wanted to emulate those people. And so Planning Commission was one of the things that I started looking at very early on as a way to volunteer at the city level. I ended up joining the board of the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Merced Chamber of Commerce, the Merced Theater Foundation, and then Planning Commission. Those were the first 3 organizations that I got involved in. And
I did
yeah,
not know that.
yeah, I was on the chamber board for longer than I was on planning, probably 9 years. President for 1 year, and I've been on the Merced Theater board continuously since like 2013, somewhere in there.
Crazy.
But yeah, Planning Commission's a lot of fun.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Let's hear some
Let's
more about
hear
that.
that,
We
yeah.
want to hear more about the Planning Commission.
Okay, so Planning Commission, it is a lot of fun. Early on, there was not much going on in Merced. So this is the Merced City Planning Commission. So only stuff
about what
within
year
the
is
city
this?
limits. This is about 2012, we'll say.
Okay.
About
Late
12.
2012, early
So
2013.
we're starting to come out of the recession as well at that point.
Depends on your definition of it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, housing was still completely in the tank.
Right.
I mean, we didn't get a single family permit for a new build pulled from 2018 to like 2016.
Oh wow.
There was like an 8-year
That's an
period
age to
there.
it.
That's and Merced County gets hit hard when it comes to recessions. Like everyone's like, "Oh, it's a recession. It's only for a year." For like Merced,
it's longer than that.
it's like 10 times longer. I feel.
Merced had a even bigger problem than just our natural. So we have very high unemployment, but there's a reason for that. We're an agricultural community.
Right.
Non-farm stuff and farm-related stuff drags our numbers up because there's a lot of seasonal workers, and the way it gets calculated in makes our unemployment numbers look artificially high, even though it's like by design, it's the way the work happens. But yeah, for a long time we were in a real bad spot, and that was compounded by the fact that things went so crazy from basically 2001, from the dot-com bubble, from the bust there all the way through 2008. Merced acquired a UC, and investors started flocking here, not realizing, because it's been 50 years since a new UC was built. I think it was UC Davis was the last one that was built.
Okay.
And they saw the potential for it to change the economy here, but I think they kind of jumped the gun.
Right.
Right? They thought it was going to be instantaneous, rapid success, this, that, and the other. So not only did we have all the loose loans that were available back in those days, artificially driving up demand and prices, our area locally had a massive influx of demand, not just from our own residents, from outside investors. So our demand here was massive relative to our supply, shot the prices absolutely through the roof. And so when it crashed, it actually crashed harder here than other places. I mean, we had houses selling for $30,000 that were probably should have been 180, 190 at that time, you know, but they had just sold for 600 2 years prior.
Yeah.
And so banks, investors, everybody took massive losses here. And I think that scared away a lot of people also.
Yeah.
So
it was like a grenade went off in this town.
yeah.
A
And
massive grenade.
No, it sounds like
you drive down any street,
Yeah.
and there half the houses had a foreclosure sign.
Yeah.
sign.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was
remember that.
wild. And the reason we didn't bounce back like everybody else did is banks were gun shy, investors
Yeah.
were gun shy. And at that point, most homeowners had gone through a bankruptcy. They couldn't get financed to
Yeah.
get back in the market. And normally investors would swoop in, buy, rehab, make rentals available and stuff like that, but they didn't want to come back. And so we were very economically depressed for way longer than everywhere else. I think partially because we blew up so big so fast.
Yeah. You bring up the whole bankruptcy thing, and like I'm getting phone calls from like politicians. Did you know so and so went through a bankruptcy? And I'm like, I think a good chunk of people went through a bankruptcy during that time. So it's like, yeah. So when I hear that, like, and I'm not trying to get too deep into the politics side of things. So, but it's like I hear that, and I'm like, I mean, I think everybody kind of went through that. Like, I think everybody went through like some type of like financial crisis or like a bankruptcy or like they were a little bit late. So like when I hear that, it doesn't like okay,
Bother
like,
you.
it doesn't bother me because a lot of people went through that.
So how did
It's
that
hard
affect?
not to talk politics when you're talking housing. They're so tied
They
together.
are, but I'm talking like candidates and like the general election type stuff.
Yeah.
And I hear that, and I'm like, that doesn't like mean anything to me, especially during that time.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Patty, what were you
Yeah,
saying?
go ahead.
So how did the whole burst affect the planning commission?
So planning commission, because there was not a lot of projects happening, was a little bit boring early on. You got,
I can imagine.
you didn't get to
And you were
learn as
how
much.
old back then?
I don't know, I would have been 31.
Okay.
Yeah, 31, something like that, 31, 32. And I was definitely the youngest member of the planning commission at that time, by probably 15, 20 years. But it was interesting. You get a very brief sort of introduction. When you come on there, they teach you a little bit, but it's not a lot. You kind of have to. It's almost a trial by fire, and it was really neat though. It takes a long time to pick this stuff up, just going through it. But yeah, the first 2 years, half the meetings get canceled for lack of items. But probably about my fourth year in, which was the year that I was, I think, vice chair and then became chair the following year, so my fifth year. Right around then is when we started to see some economic activity. It was mostly related to commercial projects, and then, of course, I was on the planning commission when we did all of the marijuana legislation as well.
Nice.
So that had to go through planning to go to city council. So because it's a heavily planning-based issue, because of where can't be here, can't be there, right? Location is a big aspect of that. We had a real heavy hand in sort of making recommendations and helping craft that language.
Gotcha.
That's crazy.
Because I know there was a big controversy. Where I think it was out over by Wardrobe. They were going to do. I'm not sure if it was like a grow or a new dispensary, and there was like big controversy with that. And I'm like, it's bringing revenue in. I mean, it can't.
Yeah. The issue with that one, and I don't really remember that one.
I think it was an
super
indoor
tight,
soccer spot.
Okay, so I do remember what you're talking about. Yeah, so they wanted to convert that one. It's not too far from a park, but it is outside the boundary, the 1,000-foot boundary. But again, we were talking about, I think they either want to do manufacturer or distribution. So you're talking about a warehouse. It's not a dispensary. It's not, even at dispensaries, you can't consume on site anyway. So
Exactly.
Whatever.
It's nothing more than Amazon.
Yeah,
warehouse.
Basically, with extra security and armed guards. But there was a park near-ish that was an issue, but the bigger issue was the soccer, the indoor soccer thing there. Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, that was a free market dynamics. This is a hearsay, but I was told that they were quite delayed on their rents.
Oh, really?
And obviously, the marijuana producers at that time were offering massive financial incentives, like they'd pay 20% above market rents just to acquire spots because the profitability was there.
Yeah.
Not so much these days.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say that was.
yeah,
That was-
a lot of
that
those
was the-
operators
4
are not
years
around
ago.
anymore.
That was the infancy of that. Like,
It was.
that industry booming.
And it's still considered, a baby industry.
It really is.
But
not-
it's changed
it's not
a
mature.
lot. It's changed.
It's changed a lot. During my last days in the Planning Commission, we talked about expanding the number of dispensary licenses, and that's still an ongoing conversation here in Merced. But the black market has just decimated the legal market and brought the pricing so far down that it's they're having to reevaluate their business models and how they do things and make some tough decisions. It's just one of those early life cycle of an industry things that they got to figure out.
So what you're saying is the black market is like still clouding over the legalization part of it. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so they're driving the pricing down.
Okay.
So if and this is largely cartel related, illegal grows, right? Where they have almost no cost. So you have an illegal grower using land that they don't even own, therefore they don't pay any taxes or rent, stealing water out of rivers and canals, and using ultra cheap labor from wherever that they're pulling them from.
Right.
So you have almost no money into it, and so if you're able to sell something for $100 a pound that costs the legal market $200 just baseline to grow it with the taxes and everything, you can completely undercut them.
Yeah.
And people will go that direction. People have shown that they're comfortable with a black market product.
Yeah, and
Sucks for them.
it does. So, and I remember that, like it was yesterday. Like there was a big bust in Merced, and there was a lot of, unfortunately, there was a lot of illegal immigrants that were coming into town. They were promised all this X, Y, and Z, and it's just, I want to say there was like around 60 illegal immigrants in that one grow spot.
Really?
And what it is they're the coyotes is what they call them. They're paying off their debts to the coyotes, and you got to work. It's pretty much like slave work.
Slavery.
There's an old term for it. It's
That's
called
what it-
indentured servitude.
Yeah, indentured servants. But it was like,
Gotcha.
yeah, it was pretty crazy, and like I remember working on there, and you could see the emotion on his face. Like he genuinely felt bad for these people that were working pretty much for free here illegally, have no idea. They're wanting to do what they think is right at that time. And I want to say there was like 60 people, and he's just like, hey, you know what? We're gonna see what we can do for these people.
Vern's got a big heart.
He
and
does.
He does a good job.
He does, and I was just like, wow, that was just watching that news press conference on Facebook. I was just like, holy smokes, this is crazy.
Yep.
Like, that was from an illegal grow. So
But yeah, planning, we got to see some really interesting stuff, including that during my time.
Yeah.
So fascinating stuff. Later on, we got to see some more stuff that was pretty interesting. Tentative maps. This is how I started getting involved in the planning aspect of the land, correct, and working on that was because of my experience watching tentative maps go through, learning that process, what was involved, and all of that. And that eventually led into doing some consulting work, under my own banner for other developers or people that wanted to get into development in the area, that knew that I knew the system and knew it because I was on planning and all that good stuff.
Is that how
And that's what led into that. Huh?
Is that how BuildCo started?
You could say that's the earliest version of the seeds that were BuildCo.
Okay.
Bear Creek Capital was my banner that I ran under for consulting, and once you know the process, and it's super onerous. The way the state of California does these things is wild. It takes years. Heaven forbid if you're not already trying to, like, if your land isn't annexed already into a city, you're looking at 3 to 4 years to get a shovel-ready project going. And so there's quite a commitment in there, and there's a lot of knowledge, right? You just have to know all the rules, the ins and outs of it, and how to get it done. And yeah, eventually that experience in the consulting led to, okay, well,
There's a need.
I'm helping you on this thing, but why don't we partner on the next one? And then that partnership, worked out. And then next thing we know, we're like, well, we could make more money if we sort of vertically integrated this. Why don't we also do the construction? Mm-hmm. Well, it actually started out, well, why don't we oversee the construction? So construction management and subcontract it all out. And then it was like, well, why don't we, form our own in-house crews and start doing some of the work? So we started doing some of the work. Then it was like, well, we're doing all this, we might as well build the houses too and start subcontracting all that. And BuildCo was born. Yep.
What year was that?
So that was just over a year ago. BuildCo has only been around for
Still
a year and a half. It's a baby organization, but with experienced management.
You're building the houses in my right? AJ was
Yeah.
asking me earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, I drive by that house
Rob.
every single day, Monday
Which
through
one?
Friday. The big one on Elliott.
On Elliott? Okay, yeah.
Well, it's not on Elliott, but it's like the backyard is Elliott.
On Cambridge is the road
Yeah.
that's up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I'm like, my buddy lives out there. Oh, you know Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you did. I believe you did his loan, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
did.
Yeah.
I did his
So
loan on his original purchase.
so he's been out there, I think, since 2012.
Long time.
Yeah, he's been out there for a while. So we've been going out there for years, and all of a sudden there's talks with all our friends and stuff like, oh yeah, did you see that they started pouring the rumbles of that, and I'm like, man, that house is massive. It is
really tall, but it is one story.
It's only one story?
It's got the ceilings in the living room are 24 feet tall. I mean,
That's gorgeous.
it's very
It's
beautiful.
gorgeous.
It's a beautiful home, very custom to the owner specs. We technically took that project over as a company just shortly after inception. So we've only had it under our banner for about 9 months now. But yeah, a lot of work has happened on the inside since then. But it's all very custom, very, very particular stuff.
And you still
Yeah.
do loans.
I do. Loans are still probably, at this point, the lion's share of my revenue. My income mostly comes from loans. And that's because this is a brand new company, and with brand new companies, you are doing nothing but bleeding cash. So, yeah, investing every dime we can back in the company, trying to take as very little as possible out, and just keep it growing. That's the goal.
the goal.
But yeah, home loans is the mainstay. Things are still, I don't know what your pipeline's looking like, but mine's a little bit slow. We're doing 2 to 4 loans as an office per month, which is honestly just barely enough to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
I'm not really taking any major disbursements from that, mostly paying staff and rent and all that fun stuff. But yeah, by percentage, that's still the primary function.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Bread.
Yeah,
to the
that's the
butter.
breadwinner right now. With development, there's, again, same thing, big potential for profits that hopefully will be a much bigger thing for me in the long run. Because as a loan officer, you can only go so big before you basically have to start your own lender, right? That's the only way you're going to get to
that next
like
echelon.
the big next echelon. You can make a lot of money as a loan officer
Just a
and
pure
do
loan
very
officer.
well. Pure loan officer.
Where you're just doing
But
like residential or
you can only go so far. I mean, I know there are guys, we all know them, the guys that give the talks and the speeches, right? They've got 6 assistants and their own dedicated underwriters and all this stuff, doing 1,000 loans a year. There's maybe like 5 of those guys nationwide, right? But that's about as big as you can go before you go to the next level. For me, I'll always do lending. It's something that I love. And I will always keep that company. I can't imagine a world in which I ever shut that down. But the land development and building long term, hopefully should outshine the lending company.
Will you ever go back to teaching at the college? He's
Okay, I was like kind of thrown off. I didn't know this.
So I never taught. I did teach like class, like I did study sessions.
Okay.
Right. So I was never a professor or anything.
Okay.
Part of my
study
goal,
sessions.
with, we haven't even talked about this. I went back to Stan to get my MBA
Okay.
a couple of years ago. Have not finished out
Yeah.
yet. I mean, I literally just have to do my capstone project, and I'm done.
Oh, okay, the capstone
But
project. Mm.
I started my master's, and 6 months later, COVID started. And so everything went remote. It was awful. It was terrible. We couldn't hardly get anything done properly. It was awful. But part of my goal with that, though, was to go. I wanted to teach at the local JC, because the MBA doesn't enhance me as a loan officer.
No.
It doesn't do any of that stuff. It has helped a little bit with BuildCo and setting up larger corporate environments. But my real goal there was not that. I wanted to teach. I like teaching. I did that a lot, leading study sessions during my second go around in college, and even the first time I did some of that too. Question is will I
you
have
ever do that
time?
again?
Will I ever
Okay,
have
that
time?
answers
I was gonna say he's got his
question.
hands in the cookie jars all over the place.
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. Between effectively 3 different companies, I've got my hands pretty full right now. The goal, though, would be to have enough infrastructure in place someday.
When you retire.
I don't know that I'll ever retire. Honestly, I hate that word, retire. I don't think I'll ever retire. I like working.
Let's say financially
Actually,
retire. Like you can financially retire is a little bit different, and I
If I
mentioned
can
that on the last
hire
podcast.
myself, if I can hire myself out of my day to day for the most part, and just have that 30,000 foot view over the company, then I would love to go teach at like the local JC or something like that. I don't think I would enjoy the UC. It's a more institutional environment at a higher level. It's a different type of student there,
Environment.
right? You see a lot more, even though UC has done really, really well at
Absolutely.
integrating local students into that. I feel like I connect more with the people that go to the JC, and that's kind of the population that I have, I guess, more of a heart for, because I did it. I went to the JC for
Same
a
here.
long time.
Same
I took
here.
a lot of classes there before, during high school, even after high school, before I was going back to Stan. I did all my prereqs at the JC.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
And I love that campus. I love what it gives back to our community. It has for
Yeah.
forever. It's been here a long, long time, and so I'd love to teach there someday.
Yeah, I will say, like, even though I was there for 7 years, to my own fault, like mentioned before, like
Yeah.
7 years of, well, I would say probably 5 years of partying, and then the last 2, it's like, okay, I really need to take this serious, and it was more or less of like, hitting the hammer, and thank God I'm not like hitting the hammer as heavy and as often as I used to. Like it was like 3-4 nights a week at the bar, and it's just like I'm like glad I'm no longer doing that, because I was in a destructive pathway when that happened.
Yeah.
And it took reality to hit, lost my job at Save Mart, and then I got on to Starbucks. The second I got on to Starbucks, that's when I really like started doing well in school. And I think once I started at Starbucks, like within 5 years I was graduating. So I like take those first I take those first 4 years and I just kind of throw them out the window, because that was the old me, and now it's the new me of like,
Necessity is a great motivator.
yeah.
Great motivator.
Yeah, and it took my dad to say, hey, I'm going to kick you out of the house if you don't get your act together. And sure enough, I got my act together, and it's like, it took a while, but hey, yeah, I got it done. So that's the main thing. So I think honestly, like I don't tell people a whole lot of this. It's like it was my 25th birthday when I was like in the down and dumps. Man, I'm 25. I was 25, and I was
That's
thinking,
pretty young.
Well, so
I was
like,
older than that when I said, let me get it together.
So I was 25, and I was like, you know what? Like I was thinking, like actually it was the day after my birthday. I was hungover. Full disclosure, I was hungover, feeling bad. Get a phone call from Stan State, hey, we want you to apply, we have a grant or something along the lines of that. And I was like the day after my birthday, and I was like, hey, Stan State called me, they wanted me over there. I just applied, so I applied, got accepted. Within 2 years, I'm graduating from Stan State. So it was,
That's pretty.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like like you said, like you take things for granted when you're really young, but when you hit a certain age, and it's like, boom, now you got to take life serious, and
things just take off.
Yeah,
from
things
there.
take
It
off.
honestly happens that way.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who want to join YPN or are curious about YPN? Coming from somebody that was a vice chair at one point, right?
Vice chair and chair.
Vice chair and chair. What year was that? Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, that was 2021 because we didn't get to do anything because COVID shut everything down.
Yeah.
So the very first year that I got to have the reins and I had all the plans and all the spreadsheets and all the things set up, all right, we're good to go. Oh, never mind, we're not doing anything at all.
Yeah. But yeah, what would you say to people who want to join YPN or are curious about YPN?
Well, if somebody asked me about YPN and they were just curious about it, honestly, I'd probably give them one of you guys' numbers to go find out about the current incarnation, what you guys are doing, what it looks like. Because I'm not heavy participating these days. I'm not in any of the planning, right? So you guys know all the ins and outs of what you're doing.
But
it's a good
at
idea.
one point.
It's a super good idea. Yeah, getting engaged in anything in the community and everything that you can reasonably afford the time to do, I feel like is not just beneficial to the community, it's beneficial to you. The most cliche thing I could probably say that is probably accurate is it's almost like food for the soul. Giving back to the community is super rewarding, and everybody says that and uses that word, and I didn't really even know what that meant, right? Because I didn't used to volunteer, right? It was a self-imposed thing. I'm going to start volunteering. It wasn't until I started volunteering that I actually understood what that meant, right? It is very rewarding to give back to the community, to know that you participated. And so somebody that wants to join YPN, I would say absolutely go for it. We used to tease that it was young at heart because none of the original members were particularly young, even at the inception of it. But no, I would say definitely anybody that should join. It's a great group, great mission. It's obviously got a housing bent because it's a realtor association group, but anybody that wants to give their time back to a good organization, I would say go for it. YPN's great.
Yeah, I was like totally opposed to joining, and I've been vocal. I was like, a lot of things that I get into, I'm like, at first I'm opposed to, and then like once I get into it, I'm like, all right, this is actually different than what I thought it was, because it's like, oh, we got to do all these like marketing events. It's like, man, do I really have time for that? And it's like, you just manage to find time for it, and it's not as what it was completely different from what I thought it was. So like anybody that I tell like nowadays, it's like, hey, if you're unsure, then just check it out, see if it's for you. If you don't like it, then you don't have to continue doing it. So that's where we're gonna like kind of open up the floor for these new members that are coming in. It's like, hey, look, these last couple months that we have, we want you to come to our events, check it out, see if you like it. If you like it, we're gonna invite you to become a member of the YPN. So that's what we're gonna do this year. So I know that's what Hector had mentioned, and we're gonna
for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, for the end of the year, it's like, hey, we're gonna kind of open up the door. Hey, this is what the events are. This is what we plan, and it's really simple. I thought there was going to be a lot more involvement, a lot more time, and all that, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't that bad compared to what I thought.
That fear of like keeping your time, because
Right.
I know I was scared of like, I already have a lot going on.
Yeah.
What am I gonna find the time?
Don't want to overpromise, underdeliver.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I ended up being super involved, but yeah, thanks to this guy.
I did recommend getting involved. This is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it kind of gives like a humble aspect of it, like when we did the cleanup in, what was that, April?
March at the McNamara Park.
McNamara
I
Park,
believe.
yeah, we went to McNamara Park. I remember taking all the trash out, and it's just like really humbling, and like just like you got to engage with so many different people at that time too, like, and it was just kind of cool. Like, it was kind of weird, kind of cool, kind of weird. We partnered up with UC Merced. I think Hoover Middle School helped out as well. So it was like just seeing like the young kids like coming out and helping out. It's like, man, I should help out more often, because it just made me, not only did it make me feel good, but it made the city, like, or those alleyways that we cleaned up a lot
It
cleaner too.
trickles down. My kids are more involved in their schools since I'm involved in YPN, surprisingly. And their grades they've always had 8s, but now are like 8+.
That's awesome.
It's like, okay, I'll take that, so.
That's awesome.
All right, well, any shout outs or thanks to anybody? You
Do we have time for that?
Yeah, we do.
Oh God, so many people all the way across the spectrum. I mean, if we're talking about the scope of stuff that we talked about today, I owe a lot of thanks to all of my professors. Everywhere that I've gone, I've had some really, really good teachers, some good mentors. Greg Hostetler has been a great mentor, even to this day. I can call Greg and he'll answer and say, if I say to him, hey man, I need your opinion or expertise on this, he's more than happy to help out. In the lending industry, going all the way back, I would say Ernie Ochoa was my earliest mentor. Literally day one, I sat down with Ernie and was like, what do I need to know to be successful in this industry? And he gave me every priority that he thought would help, and that's led me to over 500 loans in the last 12 years. The folks at the city of Merced, all the people that I worked with in planning, Kim Espinosa, Jolie Nelson, Francisco Mendoza, Scott McBride in particular, our now city manager, was the director of development for a long time, and he's been a good friend and a great person, great resource whenever I need to lean on somebody for some advice. Patty, you're always available to help out all the time, so
Likewise.
Shout out to you. Gosh, I know that I'm leaving out a ton of people because I haven't had to sit down recently and rattle them all off. So if there's anybody out there that I missed, I'm sorry, but yeah. I guess I should thank my partner Mo Jawad on BuildCo too. And
He's going to be on the podcast next week.
Yeah,
too.
podcast next week.
Yeah, good. Get him here, grill him.
So we'll be recording him on Wednesday,
Wednesday,
right? So
and
we
we
got
have
him,
Joe on Thursday with
Andy Krodick on that following
Okay.
day.
Good.
And,
Andy's going to be a good one too.
Yeah, Andy's got
Totally.
a lot of knowledge. I'm actually looking really forward to that one. So
Yep.
him and Joe have been in the industry for
Forever.
years.
Yeah.
So.
Long
It'll be a
time.
good
Yeah,
one.
I think Joe actually just mentioned yesterday he's been in the business for at least 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been in it for a while. So he's seen the changes in the lending aspect. So that's going to be a lot of like insight on that. And
He was in it in the Wild West days.
Yeah.
He didn't even need a
Yeah.
He didn't even need a license back then.
yeah. So that
That's
started in like
crazy.
08, 09 with the NMLS, like the safe test.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that started.
Well, we have Joe next week. too.
Yeah, that's
Good.
going to be awesome.
Yeah. You got some good people lined up then.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, so
Of
let's go
Anytime.
over some announcements for the YPN. So we have a couple announcements. So we just found out today that we won 2 awards for the YPN. So the first award was Event of the Year. We had the Rib Cook-Off win Event of the Year for 2024, and then we also had
The
YPNer
YPNer of the year, and that was Marissa Lewis.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so she just found out
Congratulations to
today.
her.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's so awesome. She's on the
Sweetheart.
podcast. Yeah,
She's
so
such a hard worker.
yeah, she's
That's
a real
great.
worker. And she's, I keep saying it, she's able to do all this with 5 kids.
With
plus
my
homeschooling.
kids,
I'm
such
like,
a hard worker.
how do you find time to do that? So like, I needed to tell myself, I was like, hey, look, you can find the time, because if she can do
If
that,
she could do it, you could do it.
absolutely.
Simple as that.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
That's good.
There are
Good
people
for
that
her.
have their hands tied a lot more than
Yeah.
what you think. So
Yep.
and they're still able to commit, still able to do all the things that they do. So Marissa is the perfect winner
She
for
really
YPNer
is.
of the Year. So I was like, whoa, we got a YPNer of the Year, and when I heard it was Marissa, I'm like, when Hector
anybody else but her. Well, at least I wouldn't think of
when
anybody
Hector was
else
saying all
but
this,
her.
I'm like, okay, it's either going to be him, Ashley, or Marissa, just because they're like Hector and Ashley
So
are the
involved.
yeah. Hector and Ashley are the top 2, and then Marissa did a lot of planning. She was
did.
always there for. I think she missed like one or two meetings, like when it came to like our meetings.
Probably.
She's everywhere. I see her at everything.
Oh yeah, she's at everything. So
So
yeah,
Good for her. She deserves that.
yeah, she does. Absolutely.
It's good to have you. Thank you
Thank you.
for always sponsoring, always supporting,
Oh, yeah.
always
Of course.
helping.
Anytime.
Every time we call you, you answer. Every time I text you with questions, you answer.
Happy to help.
Very knowledgeable.
So yeah, that's gonna do
All
it for
right.
episode 10. We
Well, thanks,
appreciate
guys.
it.
I appreciate
I'm
you
sure
having
we'll
me.
talk more off the podcast, and we'll probably have you on again in the future.
Sure.
So
Anytime.
Oh yeah.
I want to have you and Mo together.
Yeah.
Like, that would be fun.
That would be really fun because you guys
want
would
to see
meet up-
brothers bicker? Is that what you want to see? 'Cause that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Hey, but
same
you
here.
guys get it done. That at the end of the day, you guys get it done.
We make it happen. We're real proud of our team. You know, you're nothing without your team.
Absolutely.
So Mo and I are just cogs in our own machine that we've created, and all the people in the office and out in the field are the ones that really make it happen. But
We're
Shout
right
out
on.
to them. Well, thank you.
Again, episode 10 in the books, and we will see you on the next episode. We will
Next
have
week.
Mo Jawad. He will be on Wednesday. Like, we're recording that Wednesday. Not sure the date of when
It'll
we will
probably be on
release it.
Friday or so.
Well, I'm not sure when we're going to get this one out, so I'm hoping we can get this one out Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday. and then
Record
we'll give-
Wednesday and have that one released on Friday. And when we record Thursday, probably
Have it on
Monday or Tuesday.
sounds
That's
good.
what we're hoping. So,
All right.
Oh, one last thing. Don't forget, we do have a YouTube channel. It is Merced YPN on YouTube. We're going to try and exclusively upload those there, but for the time being, we will continue to upload on Facebook. We will share it in the I Love Merced page as well on Facebook. So, but make sure you're following us on the YPN page. I will leave a link in the description for this video on Facebook. And yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah. I gotta get used to that. Like, comment, and
Like,
subscribe.
comment,
Yeah.
subscribe.
Anyway, yeah, we do appreciate it, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.